What's up, Fox? Den Fox here, and today we're talking about the weakest RX 550 in 2022. Now, I did a video about a year ago on this exact same subject, but I gotta be honest, a year has been pretty harsh on the RX 550, as you'll see on the benchmarks today. I try to pick some very modern games. Much like the 750 Ti, the RX 550 is going to struggle in today's games, but the RX 550 does have newer drivers than the 750 Ti, so you'll be able to play more recent games, just not well, depending on what your definition of well is. The Radeon 550 came out on April 20th, 2017, hey, nice brother, with a base clock of 1100 megahertz, a boost clock of 1183, and a memory clock of 1750 megahertz. The one that I have has 2 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM, which will hold it back. It supports DirectX 12, Vulkan has a TDP of 50 watts, a suggested PSU of 250 watts, and mine is a single slot card. So because it's a one slot design, plus only requires 50 watts of power, this thing, along with the 750 Ti, used to be great options for upgrading old Dell or HP machines. I actually did a video on this a while ago where I paired it with an i5 2400, and it was a very entry level, but still usable gaming machine if you're just looking to play esports titles. But esports titles is not what we are going to be playing today. I decided to throw some of the most modern games at it to see what we could get. Starting off with the most modern game on the list will make me eat my words, because Multiverses at 1080p with the high settings ran at 54 FPS with a 1% low of 50 and a 0.1% low of 45. Multiverses is a very basic looking game, but a very optimized game. I also made a video on this as well, not to plug myself twice in a row, but I also did, if you are curious as to whether your graphics card will run Multiverses, but pretty much any card will, because the RX 550 handled this flawlessly at the high settings, which means that you could probably crank this down to low if you wanted to hit the 60 FPS cap that is implemented in Multiverses without any issues whatsoever. But if we flip the switch and switch over to something more graphically impressive and demanding, Halo Infinite, I set to the 30 FPS mode. At the low settings, I was just playing quick play. In this particular match, it was oddball, and we saw an average frame rate of 33 with a 1% low of 25 and a 0.1% low of 20. So depending on what your definition of playable is, this might be perfectly fine for you. I think that it is 720p depending on where you are on the map. I don't know how far the resolution goes in terms of sliding to get that 33 FPS, but I'm sure that it was struggling quite a bit to get there, having to fall in the 10700 in order to do the heavy lifting. Perhaps you are okay with a low resolution 30 FPS gameplay. The RX 550 is cheap, and if you just want to slot something in there, then feel free to. I compare it somewhat to like Iris Xe graphics. So if you have a modern day laptop, first of all, I think it's really cool that if you have a modern day laptop with an Intel Iris Xe graphics from an i5, it'll perform probably as well as an RX 550, which just blows my mind. Up next is God of War. It's 720p with the low settings. We saw an average frame rate of 25 FPS, a 1% low of 20, and a 0.1% low of 20. So we were not able to get 30 FPS. And that sort of is a marker to me that if you are somebody who wants to play modern AAA titles, the RX 550 is no longer for you. Because God of War really isn't even that modern, and we were playing at lower settings than on the PlayStation 4, and weren't able to get playable frame rates. So perhaps the RX 550 is not for you if you are looking for something with more oomph to play AAA titles. Up next is Doom Eternal at 720p low. We saw an average frame rate of 30 FPS with a 1% low of 17 and a 0.1% low of 14. So not a fantastic showing, but we were able to just barely hit 30 FPS. It was actually 29.7, but I round up. So again, this game is actually quite old, but Doom Eternal is notoriously known to run bad on older hardware. Anything in this sort of caliber or year will not run Doom Eternal very well. Up next is Monster Hunter Rise at 1080p with whatever settings it gave me. Did a fantastic job. It got 57 FPS on average with a 1% low of 46 and a 0.1% low of 45. So no stutter to speak of, and I was surprised that a game this new actually ended up running really well. Granted, it is meant to run on a Switch, but still I'm very impressed. So the RX 550 is going to struggle in a lot of modern games. I think that for modern AAA titles, you're going to be looking at 720p 30 FPS. For esports titles, lighter indie games, things like that, the RX 550 still might be something you're interested in. But I think if you are a person who enjoys a lot of AAA titles and likes to buy modern AAA titles, then the RX 550 probably is not enough for you. I think that a 1050 isn't that much more expensive and is at least a little bit better and a little bit more modern. 1050 Ti would probably be a lot better, but it is more expensive, probably about twice as expensive. But if you have like Intel Iris Xe graphics as well, those are going to run just as good, if not better than this. So I say that the RX 550 is very, very close to falling off. I don't know if it's going to last another year because of how difficult games are going to be to run on this little thing. And with GPU prices drastically declining, I think that it is time, if you have an RX 550, to upgrade. It doesn't have to be a huge upgrade, but I think you're going to see a huge difference if you get even like a GTX 1060, and you will be very happy with that investment. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, do what you're usually doing as always. Buy yourself something nice.